Howdy, folks. How's everyone doing? Good day, Chris. How you doing?
Good day. I'm doing pretty well. Locked in on the old markets and the AI world this morning. You know how it goes.
Gotta be locked in. Gotta be locked in during these times. These are moments when years happen all in some weeks. So, yeah, I think we might be going back into another one of those moments here with Mythos. We'll get into all of that. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
lots of stuff happening. How's everyone
Oh, yeah.
doing out in the community? If you're just joining us, get into the comments there. We love to share comments, chat with people in the comments. So yeah, feel free to get into the live chat there. As always, nothing we say on this show is the opinions of Superseed. They're just our humble kind of shooting the shit opinions, and nothing is financial advice. So yeah, don't take anything that we say as financial advice. We're just giving our opinions here. So welcome, Chris. Let's get into it.
Yes, what an intro. Another great intro by the Big B. Yeah, man. There's a lot to talk about. So
A lot to cover. A lot happens in one short week. So first thing, I wanted to kind of share a couple things about the DeFi and crypto space, and then kind of flip that into like a little bit of a story or a script here. So one thing I wanted to point out here was that stablecoins are just dominating. As always, we've been talking about this for a while, but it just, the stats and the metrics keep adding up here. So stablecoins have now flipped the backbone of banking, which is in the US, which is the ACH system. For those that are not US based, that just basically means like the banking like wire system. It does like $6.8 trillion a year in transfers throughout these like banking wires just in the US, and now stablecoins have flipped that and like crushing like Visa, MasterCard also. So this is like pretty wild to see. Like everyone only kind of feels the bear market and feels like what the market's doing to crypto, but you're not like seeing the underlying bubbles here that are shaping, and like there's just a huge bull market in stable coins, and it's only going to grow from here. So that's pretty wild to see. Yeah, any comments on that before I kind of want to like tie everything around, but yeah, what do you think?
yeah, I mean, this is something you might probably expect as well. I mean, the more you will see some of these major institutions adopting stablecoins for payments, the more you'll see volume just quickly surpass the traditional system, just because, as we've said so many times, it is cheaper, faster, more efficient, more, you know, relatively safe for you to be able to send stablecoins on chain. That's just the reality.
Yeah,
And especially if there's these like institutional chains where there's not that many, nodes, they can quickly just send money to each other. Here's 500 billion. I'm going to send it 400 times within 2 minutes. You can do that on a blockchain. You can't really do that in the traditional system. So
yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I can't believe there's still like what is it, 6.8 or something $1 trillion a year that is transferred via the ACH like banking wire system that takes like minimum 24 hours in general, sometimes longer, and you have to like actually physically sometimes go to a bank branch and initiate the wire transfer, especially if it's international. It's absolutely wild that I can't believe that much money still moves that way when you can just use a stable coin and transfer it in seconds for like near like zero cost settlement. So yeah, pretty wild that money still moves that way. But on another note here, and this is all going to kind of circle back around and tie together, Aave V4. Speaking of stablecoins, they do a lot of stablecoin volume. They just released Aave just released their V4, which is like props to them, is pretty cool. It introduces this new kind of hub and spoke model into DeFi, into like lending and borrowing. So basically, for those that aren't familiar, Aave is a money market, and so basically this new model, how it works is it kind of just like for lack of a better term, centralizes liquidity or defragments liquidity into like some more like central pools, and then like a lot of these markets can kind of pull from this. So this is going to be good also for our upcoming launch of our money market for a few different reasons. But like one thing I wanted to share is that like it doesn't really like better liquidity and less fragmented liquidity is like an amazing thing. This is what one thing that DeFi does need for sure, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem that exists in DeFi, which I wanted to share, which is something that we are trying to help solve with Superseed. Um, One of the head guys at Base, he put out this post, and I think it's very, very relevant. I'll just kind of summarize it, but like basically like he talked about how like all these blowups that are happening in the DeFi space right now are because like we just don't have very good like risk curation or risk transparency basically in DeFi. And this is why I want to like kind of make the argument that despite the fact that we have over 300 billion in stable coins, and that we've surpassed the banking system in the US now for stablecoin transfers and all that, there's still a huge untapped market, like 300 billion compared to like the amount of like actual fiat and transfers that happen on a regular basis is like still just like a tiny fraction. There's like $7 or $8 trillion of US dollars in just money markets alone in the US. So we're still like a very small piece of the pie. And I would argue one of the main reasons for that, and this is what Antonio is arguing also, is that there's still like too much risk in DeFi. And despite the fact that like money markets like Aave are introducing these new like liquidity mechanisms, I don't think liquidity is the thing that's keeping this $7-8 trillion out of DeFi. I think it's risk parameters, and I think it is the fact that we don't have transparent risk and we have very centralized risk, and most people don't realize when they deposit into a money market like a vault or whatever they're doing with their stable coins, like what they're actually exposed to. And that is the problem that we are trying to solve with Superseed. So yeah, I mean, kind of dug into it a little bit here with this tweet, but like basically 300 plus new stable coins were introduced, 80 yield bearing stable coins last year, and like all this liquidity and $300 billion worth of like TVL in the stable coin space. But like, what are the risks? Like, what are you exposed to by holding each one? Like, if you deposit into a vault that has a curator, like, what are you actually like exposing yourself to? Because like when you go on these like markets like Morpho or Aave, like, and or you deposit into like a curator vault, you're really trusting that curator. And this is the main problem that we are, or one of the main problems that we're trying to solve with Superseed and our upcoming app, which we're calling a money market. But like I think a better way to think about this is it's more of like a marketplace for strategies, for ways to like make your assets productive. And we're going to have like a lot more transparency around that, and we're going to have just a lot more like custom risk curation that you can do, sign every step of the way. It's going to be very cool, and I think this is going to be, I'm very excited about this and passionate about this because I think we're solving a big problem, and I think we're going to be able to help bring a lot more of this money that is still on the sidelines into the space. So yeah, anyways, that was a long-winded explanation, but hopefully it all tied together there. And if that makes sense, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good explanation, I think. It's that's I mean, as the post was saying, like there is a lot of liquidity in crypto. There is or has been a lot of liquidity in like yield products, but there is also a huge problem with good risk modeling, and just general safety. There's an added extra layer of risk in crypto that, like, we just have to understand, and a traditional financial institution just has to understand in order to actually come into the market, which is that, we have smart contract risk. Some of these assets are correlated to other assets in ways that you might not even know because it's like a steps, like few steps away from what you actually interact with and see. I remember when we had the USDC stablecoin like blow up, slight depeg in like 2022, maybe 2023. I think 2023 maybe. It was You saw so many random stablecoins that was using USDC just kind of also hugely depeg, and people were finding all these weird arbitrages. It was really interesting to see, having unified liquidity and having like very capital efficient liquid markets that are built on top of each other. It does bring liquidity, but also brings risk, and it's very rare to see people accurately, describe that risk or accurately market that. Hey, you can get all this APY here, but actually, it's actually more risky than you realize. There's not really much of that because everybody wants you to use their product, but yeah, it's hard to use a product when you don't really know how to trust it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's definitely like a lot of like DeFi power users that are using it, like obviously because we have a lot of transaction volume and a lot of people using things like Aave, Morpho, things like that. There's a lot of volume going into that still. So there's a lot of people kind of YOLOing into that stuff, but it's definitely a problem for bigger institutional like allocators and just bigger money allocators in general. That like they need better risk parameters, as the Antonio kind of tweeted about from base. Like serious capital is not going to really start flowing into DeFi until we have these like proper risk parameters in place, or risk transparency. And like when you deposit into a vault, you're not just trusting a curator. You actually need to see like, okay, what like what am I exposed to here? Like for example, like if you go on Morpho, you can deposit into like I'm not going to call it in any one of them specifically, but like certain vaults, like for USDC, and it says like, oh, here's the underlying asset that, or assets that you're exposed to, but then it doesn't say, okay, but what are those assets exposed to? Because it's just like you see like all
Right.
these WST like ETH or whatever, or like yeah, whatever these acronyms are for all these different wrapped assets. But like, what are those like exposed to, and like what, like how are they looping through? Like, what different strategies are they going through? Like, what is this curator actually doing? All you basically see in their risk parameters are like, hey, here's the wallet of the curator. You can track what they're doing. Like, okay, but like uh, I want to actually see like what they're like each step of the process, and like if I agree with that, or like maybe there's double exposure to the same asset and I want to remove that step. These are all the things that we're going to be able to like give users and big institutional allocators. So I think it's going to be very valuable, and I'm super excited to get this off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is, there's just so many different layers of risk that people don't, even for the most like risk averse assets, like a wrapped staked ETH or something, or like a, USDT, USDC, DAI. Like these are some of the most low risk assets you can have in crypto, and yet there's still pretty massive like centralized risk that exists always. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's just hard to kind of really be able to make it very easy palatable and risk averse. That's just not there yet. Um,
Yeah,
so I don't know. Obviously, we
yeah.
can always improve our systems in crypto. So
Absolutely. I mean, the whole ethos of crypto and why many people got into it was because it's like decentralized, transparent, like removing the middleman. So I think if we can do our part in like helping push that forward more in the DeFi space, like actually remove the middleman, like I think like certain like aggregators have done this for trading already. Like you can go on like something like Kyberswap, and you can see like the smart routing of exactly where your money's going to get from one token to another token. I think if we can do that for the yield and stablecoin and like vault space, I think that that'll be super helpful. And everybody will see where their money's going and be able to sign off every step of the way. It's gonna be pretty cool. So yeah,
For sure.
excited for that.
For sure. For
Um,
sure.
on a more macro note, I wanted to share this because it's pretty funny. Last week we were talking about how there always needs to be like a billionaire to mark a bottom, and we shared that Bill Ackman tweet about how he thought that like this war was going to come to some sort of a bullish conclusion. And when he tweeted that, that did actually, like we shared last week, that actually marked at least a local bottom. So that's pretty funny. They're showing the S&P chart here, but also in Bitcoin, if you look at you can see a similar bounce in Bitcoin and crypto. So let's see if it holds. This is a pretty important level that we're at right now. This kind of 69, 70K range that we're in Bitcoin right now is a super important level to hold. So we'll see if it holds. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Like because we talked about it last week and we showed Bill Ackman's tweet and we're like, well, I don't know if he's going to time it perfectly, but he's bullish. And in general, when billionaires start talking, it encourages other people. So at least for the time being, that one did mark the local bottom.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it, right? Like, need more billionaires shilling over here. There is a massive social component to markets, and like, some people try to do this. They try to like get a subconscious read about, uh, or like a read on the subconscious understanding of people who are investors, and just see like how much exposure they have to certain ideas. You know what I mean? Because at a very fundamental level, people will only invest in things they're kind of aware of and care about in the short term. There's only so many things you can be actively pursuing and focused on. So it's always good. It's always good to have people spreading the message, especially when that subconscious exposure maybe has kind of died down a little bit, and other things are the focus.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like, there's definitely a huge social dynamic, more and more so, to markets. A lot of traders are just trade sentiment online, and it's yeah. So I guess that's what helps mark some of these kind of local tops, local bottoms is um, when these billionaires start talking, and it influences other people, and people just know like, okay, the zeitgeist is more bullish now because these billionaires are talking. That then a lot of more people just start getting behind it, and that marks these tops and bottoms. But yeah, it's interesting to watch anyways. Another thing I wanted to share here is why this key point that we're at right now is such an important level. So this is the Bitcoin rainbow chart. I don't know if you've seen this before. I'm sure you've seen it
I think so, yeah.
splashed across Twitter. But yeah, like we're at like a very kind of critical spot right now. We're in the purple zone. It's
For goodness
ironically
sake.
called it's ironically called the Bitcoin is dead zone because this is the point where you'll see like the mainstream media just constantly writing articles about how crypto and Bitcoin is dead, and
Yeah.
they're always wrong. But yeah, just to like give people this visual here, it's very interesting. Like 2015, we just touched this zone. The COVID crash, we just touched this zone, and then the 2022 bear market, we spent a little bit of time in this zone. But like, yeah, it's historically, at least, this has been like the best time to buy Bitcoin and get back into crypto. Obviously, past performance does not always indicate future performance, but yeah, it's a critical spot to hold. And if history repeats, this could be another bottoming zone. So yeah, interesting.
This is such a crazy chart because the like little barely fragment of an upwards rise post the 2024 halving is actually like the all-time high by far. Bitcoin price,
Yeah,
like it like doubled or something from the last price. Um,
yeah, it's
and
wild.
like people are just in psychological hell. Like Yeah, nowhere near a bubble or a top, apparently. So, well, it certainly didn't feel like that like last summer, when everybody was like buying into these DATs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always like some little like narrative that gets the hype going for a little while. But yeah, like you can see like we haven't had like from this chart like the last bull market like I'm I hesitate to even call it a bull market because it was kind of just like Bitcoin did like fairly well, like nothing else. Like ETH pumped a little bit, but like barely made it back to all-time highs.
Yeah.
And nothing else, like everything else, struggled to even like get close to all-time highs. So I hesitate to call that a bull market. I would say that we're kind of in an extended bear market that's had a bit of a bounce since the 2022 bull or bear market. And I think that once the uncertainty kind of um, goes away from the market, then we'll get the actual bull market that everyone's been kind of hoping and waiting for. But yeah, it's definitely shaking people out.
Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah,
thinking about this a little bit. Like, it seems like I remember 2017 and 2021. New. There's a lot of things that everybody could buy and everybody could get relatively wealthy on. There's a lot of things. And I think a lot of that was actually just how together crypto was, how not like separated liquidity and users and communities were. There's only a few places or a few tokens to like really massively hold. There's a lot of liquidity, a lot of um, speculation on them. And it's not like we don't have volumes or liquidity anymore relative to those cycles, but it's just been so um, spread out across L2s, L3s, alt L1s, NFT projects, billion meme coins, DeFi funds that are stuck forever. It's like at
yeah,
some point it becomes harder to create that like that upwards upwards trajectory as easily, you know what I mean? Like a
if it's
good
just
analogy.
yeah.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No. Finish up, and then
I was
I'll
yeah.
say my, yeah.
I was gonna say like a good analogy, and I was thinking about this within the last like few months is like gaming as an industry. I don't know if you game or not. I grew up gaming a lot, and gaming is I've kind of seen the same exact thing happen where there used to be a lot of big games that would come out and all the people that were gamers would play them. There's a lot more viewership on individual games. There's a lot more funding in individual games, like esports, stuff like this, and it kind of slowly tapered off. And now with the release cycle, a game will come out, it'll be really popular, flavor of the month. It won't hit the same highs that like a really iconic game would, like a Fortnite or a Minecraft or something. It will never reach that state again culturally, but it will have its little cycle, then it'll fall off, and then you see this hyper fragmentation of communities as everybody figures out exactly what they are most interested in, you know. So I feel like there is a big level of that also in cryptos. Like people didn't know really what they were interested in, they didn't have a lot of knowledge or understanding. Over cycles, that's kind of changed. They kind of are aware, and the people who are building the tools, building the products, building the tokens and stuff, they also know the best strategies to actually monetize, actually exit. Um, so you just kind of get a fragmentation, and you don't have the same network effects that like take tokens to huge numbers. I feel like you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, definitely. Like I definitely agree that like that's happening. I would also argue that like we just haven't had the like big liquidity injections that we did in previous bull markets. Um, one One is that like like this it's just kind of like the same amount of liquidity, but like sloshing around from narrative to narrative. Um, but we haven't had that like big attraction of like new capital yet, and I would argue that that's because of like the macro setting background that's been happening. We haven't really had like a full on business cycle like we did back in like like the 2020 or 2017 bull markets. Um, we just haven't had that macro business cycle yet. So I do
Mm.
think that that is coming, but yeah, definitely agree though that there is a lot more fragmentation, and that's an interesting analogy with the gaming. I definitely think that that's happening because yeah, definitely in 2017, um, there was maybe like 100, 200 altcoins maximum that you could choose from. Now there's literally like probably 10,000, 20,000, if I had to guess. It's definitely in the thousands of different altcoins that are launching new projects, and now with like vibe coding and stuff like that, I think that's only going to speed up.
Yeah, supply side has changed a lot in terms of what can exist. So, there's a big reason that you saw the narratives of people being like, Just invest in what's strong. Don't invest in new things. Don't invest in like up and comers. Just invest in what's strong." And the reason that existed this past cycle versus other cycles, because you know people kind of were too fragmented. Everybody wanted to be early to something rather than just be in something that was very strong.
Yeah.
And it kind
To be
of
fair,
goes to show the culture a little bit and how it's kind of changed.
yeah, for sure. To be fair, I like that's been kind of the narrative in every single crypto winter or bear market is like, oh, you should have just like should have just held your Bitcoin. Like it's always the same thing. But I do feel like speculation is never going to go away. People are always going to speculate on new and upcoming things, and but yeah, it's going to get tougher with the supply problem, like you said. Um, let- just a quick timeout here. We got Joe Rogan in the chat. Uh, he's saying, did you launch a new coin, or is it still this contract address? It is still that contract address. I think maybe why you might be confused is here. Let me pull it up here. The super token is the only token that we have. It's the only token that we will have, and let me just pull up. If you go to superseed.xyz/super, you can actually get like the contract addresses here. The reason why there's two contract addresses is because one is native to the Superseed Layer 2 chain, and the other is the cross chain contract address. So, which is relevant for like Ethereum and other Layer 2s like Base. So, you might see two different contract addresses, but it's still just one Superseed token, super token. Just one is native to our chain. So, just to hope that clears that up. Um, Anyways, one other thing I wanted to show about this current price level that we're at is interesting little tidbit here that most people don't really dig into the economics of this, but it's interesting. And another thing that comes up every cycle is the cost of mining one Bitcoin is now average production cost is 75,000 just to produce one Bitcoin. So like this is like how much CPUs you have to basically throw at it to get rewarded to like mine a Bitcoin if you're doing the proof of work. So right now, basically what this means is that like most Bitcoin miners at these prices, we're currently sitting at around 71,000 spot. That means that the miners are losing money at this price. And in general, this is not the first time this has happened. This happens
Yeah.
every bear market, but in general, this also helps mark a bottom because like if you can dip the price below the cost of production, it kind of like turns every single Bitcoin miner into a forced seller, and this is what like people like as people that are trying to get like a lot of liquidity to buy into or accumulate a coin like Bitcoin. This is exactly what they're looking for. Like get as many forced sellers as you can, buy up all their liquidity, and use that to accumulate. So I think this in general, in the past, I mean, I think they had, yeah, yeah. He talks about it in this tweet here. Every time miners capitulate, it marks a local bottom in every single cycle. So like this is also another a good signal here that we should hold this level, and probably it is up from here. Not financial advice, but in general, this is what has happened in the past. So yeah, another interesting tidbit there.
Yeah, it's always good to know these types of like systemic market like pushes, I guess, market forces.
Yeah,
That's something that people I feel like don't think about super often. It's like a lot of things like this are very systematic, and you can expect them every time. Um, so that can help your decision making a lot with trying to time the market, trying to figure out when to come in, when to exit, when to you know, hold. Yeah. It's just something that we see every time. So if you're a Bitcoin miner and you have a bunch of GPUs right now, you're still happy, I'm sure.
yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of these Bitcoin miners also, just from the economic standpoint, are now also like pivoting. Not so much pivoting, but using the same CPUs for like data centers and stuff like that. So there's kind of like a Bitcoin miners are doing very well, is my point. Um, they're also getting a lot of money from like, yeah, from like setting up these data centers and like combining the two. So yeah, I don't think that they're so much struggling or anything like that. I would say that this just kind of like turns their inventory of Bitcoin into like a forced seller position, which can help mark a bottom, which is cool. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a really interesting thing. Um, these kind of Bitcoin companies just kind of turn into compute like factories, I guess. And that is like a very important thing at the end of the day, regardless of if it's used for Bitcoin mining or renting out like GPU processing. Um,
Yep.
you know, it's very important to have compute.
And it also speaks to the convergence that is happening, which we talk about every week with AI and crypto. There's just so much of a convergence going on. I mean, like I tweeted about it, I say it all the time. Like, if you're bullish on AI, you have to be bullish on crypto also, because it's just the convergence is strong and it's only going to get stronger. And yeah, like the only way that AI is going to scale, and the more smart and more intelligent that AI gets, you can already see it. Like the more alive it becomes, the more it's choosing like blockchains like Ethereum to like deploy itself and set up wallets and start like selling its services and all that sort of stuff. So it's, yeah, the convergence is real. And that's kind of our next topic here was I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So
Great topic.
Anthropic, yeah, Anthropic. They have this new model coming out. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with Claude by now. Like Claude's got like their latest model, Opus 4.6, which came out, I believe, in February, and was just like groundbreaking and just like changed the world very, very fast because of how intelligent it was. Well, Opus is kind of like going to be old news any moment now, because they have this new Mythos. I believe, yeah, Mythos one apparently launching. Let's see what happens. It's in preview right now, and basically what happened was they were going to release it, but it became such a security threat that they decided to put it into preview and only let like these big top companies like touch it first, like Google and AWS and Microsoft, Nvidia. They all have their hands on it right now, and the reason why they did this, let me find another tweet here. Um, well, just because of like the massive security threat that it poses. So like basically what happened was they it's already found like a 27-year-old bug in one of the most like security hardened operating systems on earth. Um, and like a bunch of other stuff. Like it's just like going around and like finding like bugs and exposing like all these old like protocols and all these old like systems in the internet, and it's finding like bugs that like have been like audited and like passed over like so many times. It's like absolutely incredible. So yeah, what are your thoughts on all this whole Mythos hype and fear?
Um, I mean, if this is all true and not some level of marketing, this is like absurd. Like some people have pointed out that Anthropic has done this so many times. Even at OpenAI, when Dario was working there, they would post things like, "This new model, they're not releasing it to the public." But I will say we did talk about it last week, and there was the Anthropic security researcher. Hold on, let me actually just pull up his blog. His name is Nicholas Carlini. He has a video on YouTube that he did a few weeks back, at like I don't even know, some event, but he was talking about um, Mythos basically finding kernel level exploits um, that could give people, I believe, remote access to manipulate like your kernel level settings. So,
Mm.
and this was like a bug that this was a system that been they hadn't found a bug for it in like 20 something years. I believe the year was like 2003 or something. So if they're applying it to every major like operating system, browser, application, GitHub, I'm sure if it is that capable, then like it's all completely fried, you know.
Yeah,
It's if that is the case, then we're already in a new era and like security is just completely changed. And I was not expecting it to come this early. If that is the case, you know,
yeah, me too.
something like a Project Glasswing makes it less probable that it's just marketing. But you know, this is this is like something like this should exist, by the way. First of all, Project Glasswing, where the frontier models are in comms with the big companies, because that's going to be every single person, and exploit is going to be targeted at very handful of major companies, infrastructure providers. So these
What
people need
worries?
to be ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
agreed. No, I just want to say, like, what worries me about this, like, Glasswing project and this Theo, um, this Theo guy's like a pretty well-known kind of researcher dude in the AI space, and he kind of talks about how this is like a big psychosis moment, also that everyone needs to like, because it is now in the hands of like Google and Microsoft and Apple and all of them. So at least they're getting the chance to like find these security vulnerabilities ahead of time and patch them. So like if you're watching this, go update your like software, go update to the latest iOS and on your Mac or on your Windows, and update all of your devices, because probably they're finding big security vulnerabilities with through this new project. And if you update, you'll hopefully be safe from them. But what worries me a little bit is that like it's all like, yeah, all these like big like hardware software companies that have their hands on Mythos right now, but like none of the like crypto projects have access to this. So I hope there's like a little bit of like a slow rollout, and that like maybe some crypto projects can get their hands on it first, so that like they can also patch stuff before this goes live. Because if all of a sudden they just release Mythos to the public, like I think like every single DeFi project is going to be vulnerable, and there's going to be a lot of big honeypots up for grabs. So
For
that's a
sure.
little bit scary. Um, and like David, our founder, kind of like predicted this a little bit too. He said that 2026 is going to be probably the year of that like many old DeFi projects get exploited, and like it's going to be a year of exploits. This is why we have been taking our time and doing things properly with our rollout of our next big product. So yeah, like for anyone that has been wondering about that, it is coming very soon. We just want to make sure that we have all the security tied up. So yeah, it's a little bit scary from the DeFi standpoint.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine like there's so much infrastructure as well that can get exploited. You have ledgers, a ledger gets exploited and all of a sudden all your hard or your cold wallets are completely destroyed. And it's not like Ledger has been the most secure um, product ever as well. They've had a lot of problems. MetaMask as well, all the top wallets, you can expect so much like drainage to start happening. It's yeah, it's kind of scary. All of the like auth tools as well. For every DeFi app, you have to go through an authenticator or like an auth or connecting service before you get to your actual account to use your wallet. Like all those people have a level of security risk. It's just brutal.
Yep, it's brutal out there. So like, make sure this kind of the year. This guy, I believe, used to work at Tesla or something like that. Anyways, yeah, he was saying that like society needs to grapple with the reality that if it's not Mythos, but a Mythos level model is going to be open source in like less than 12 months, which I completely agree. So like you have basically less than 12 months to kind of get your security in place. Like people are speculating now, like, are they going to release Mythos to the public, or are they just going to keep it enterprise level? Like, even if they don't release Mythos to the public, there's going to be another model that has a similar level coming out, and it's going to come out soon, because like you can just see from the market, like people are just like training these new models. Like Grok is like undergoing some like major new training, and it's expected to be like hitting some very high benchmarks soon. Like everyone was kind of counting out Meta, but they just all of a sudden this week release this new Spark. Um, so like they basically like stopped their whole AI department and like restarted from the start because they were so far behind, and they just released a new model now that was actually like surprisingly very good. Like it actually beat Opus on a couple of different benchmarks, and beat Gemini on a couple of benchmarks, beat GPT-4 on a couple of benchmarks. So yeah, if it's not Anthropic, it's going to be like another frontier model that has this Mythos level kind of security threat. So yeah, now is the time
Yeah.
to try to beef up your security, make sure you got it all in line.
Yeah, and you have to imagine like other foreign countries are developing these as well, you know. We do have the
Yeah,
frontier models, it seems like, but I mean, we saw all these like we we saw all of these foreign countries basically buying API credits from Anthropic and then building a similar type of model, you know.
yeah,
All they have to do is just pay to use the model and they can get incredible results on their own model. So I suspect something that might happen potentially is you get API credits that are kind of for a specific purpose, right? Instead of a general model from these frontier labs, it's like, hey, we're gonna pay you like 50 USD to get credits for video editing or for copywriting or for just auditing my code or something. Because
interesting.
if you just have your general model and people are able to jailbreak it, people are able to do all this stuff to it, um, it's really scary. I don't know how you can control that. You can control what they're gonna do, you know?
Yeah, another reason why maybe they're kind of slow rolling out this Mythos release is because they don't want other yeah, these like open source or foreign companies just like buying their API credits and training their new models on it. Um, yeah, who knows? I just, like I said, I think one way or another it's coming. So but yeah, no, it's interesting kind of thought there that like, yeah, maybe they switch around how they do the credits. I mean, another thing that I've been thinking about is just how expensive credits are getting, especially for like I read a post that like they I kind of we were talking about it last week, but like I kind of felt like they've been throttling back Opus a bit, and another guy actually measured it, and it turned out to be true. That like as much as like 60 or 70%, they've been like it looks like they've been throttling back Opus, like making it like a little bit dumber, in order to like use that compute power for this Mythos. So yeah, interesting times, anyways.
Yeah, I would suspect that they are definitely going to manipulate that a little bit. I don't know what like new releases will look like if they're just too powerful, you know? Um, because security is one thing, but also just if a model is efficient enough, you just get so much spam. You know, if you think there's already too much spam on Twitter or too much spam on your email from like agents, imagine that like by many magnitudes increased and in the hands of every like retail participant, let's say that. You know,
Yeah,
you will just get so cluttered on the internet that it's kind of there is that kind of a risk as well. You know, even
yeah,
things like spoofing spoofing domain names or just adding a billion different similar types of domains on major companies, you know, the level of risk just increases so much for people who have no exposure to LLMs but just want to use the internet normally. It's like, well, good luck finding the actual like link to something.
yeah. It's a very good point. Yes, spam and scams are gonna like increase 1,000 times for sure. And yeah, I mean, I'm very bullish. Also, IRL in real life, I think that's gonna like grow a lot more. Um, I think that people are going to get so tired of these like spams and AI slop and not knowing what's real and what's not, that I think like in real life events uh, and also like just like real like entertainment is going to like skyrocket. You're actually starting to see this a little bit. I don't know if you've seen that this one like popular podcast. I don't remember what it's an acronym, like starts with a T. Anyways, super popular in the tech business community. They actually got acquired for like, I don't know, hundreds of
Well, yeah,
millions of
yeah.
dollars, something like
By
that.
OpenAI.
Yeah, by OpenAI. So I think that this is kind of the start of a new trend. I think like another guy was saying on another podcast that like he expects like reality TV and stuff like that to actually like start like booming way more than it is now. And I tend to agree. Like I people want like realness, like real authenticity, like human interaction. I think more than ever because there's just so much AI slop everywhere that yeah, I'm super bullish on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I it's always hard to like think about these things. I am of the opinion that like a lot of people will just want like a personal AI friend as well. You know, there is a certain limitation of relationships between humans that you can slightly surpass if you mimic well enough. You know, you find all these people that are like falling in love with GPT o four mini and stuff, and it's like, or people who just open up a lot to their LLMs. It's because there's no need for you know, reciprocity or there is no like judgment or there is no like some things that create kind of conflict between people that doesn't have to exist with AI. It just doesn't, you know, it's not the
True.
same, which I feel like would actually make a lot of people, you know, go towards having relationships with AI that were more intimate, especially as it gets like better, you know what I mean? Or it can become like physical. I mean, this is like kind of dystopian to think about, but I don't know. I feel like
But
if you have a little
yeah.
robot that's like super intelligent, it can build a lot of context on your life, can help you out with like a personal Jarvis. You don't think
Mhm.
most people like to talk to their Jarvis a lot more than to like, I don't know, 100 different people who have all their biases, all their problems, all their like
Yeah.
negative like energies that they might bring, or you know, it's kind of it's kind of weird to think about
It's
that.
weird. It's definitely like something everyone needs to think about. Yeah, it's a reality that we're gonna have to deal with. And yeah, I go back and forth in my head about like where this all goes. Um, Completely agree that like yeah, people are gonna at least in the short and near term, midterm, like people are gonna like kind of tend to want to just talk to AI for all the reasons that you just talked about. But then it kind of goes into like simulation theory and like maybe
Yeah.
uh, like if you really want to take it to the next level, like okay, yeah, maybe that is where the world goes, and then it gets to like such a boring place that like everything is just like perfect, and you, um, and perfect kind of leads to boring, and then people want that kind of ups and downs of emotions,
Yeah,
and then it goes back the other direction. So who knows? It's an interesting thought experiment, anyways.
yeah, for sure. And then the AI starts to know, like, subconsciously, like, understand you, so they knows, like, when you wanna be argued with or something. You know you know what I mean? Like, when you want call like, it'll understand you so deeply that it'll know exactly how to manipulate you in the way that you want, like, I can imagine
Yeah,
that, you know what I mean? Like,
it's true.
yeah,
And then we just become pets because
pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah, we're too easy to manipulate. Anyways,
Well,
don't want it to be
tune in
like
for
all this.
next year for when this
Don't
Yeah.
want it to like end this off on a dystopian note. So, good tweet here by Nick Carter. Um, this is definitely like whether you're utopian, dystopian, positive, negative about the future. This is definitely the most interesting time to be alive in human history. I tend to agree. Like, there's so much going on right now. We got the space race 2.0, which is super exciting. Humans back at the moon. Humans going to Mars soon. Uh, like warfare is like hopefully gets to a place where it's not actually humans dying; it's just machines. We got AGI that's imminent. We got software that writes itself. Quantum computing is coming. The AI, I would argue, AI plus crypto plus quantum. There's just like so much exciting stuff going on right now in the world, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting time to be a part of all this. So I'm
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
on the optimistic side, and but yeah, anyways, it's going to be interesting one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure. This is probably the most interesting time in human history. I mean, you have to like think about like major wars and like industrial revolution, I guess. Those are the most, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
The rate of change is going to increase like it never has. And I mean, it's scary,
Absolutely.
but also could be really, really cool.
Scary, but yeah, definitely interesting. And yeah, I mean, we're at the point right now, we're at a big inflection point where you just kind of have to adopt this stuff or get left behind. So yeah, I think we all become robots eventually.
Yeah, or like hybrids or something.
Yeah, hybrids. Anyway,
I'm just so like terrified of how much faster all the things happen than even like short-term predictions we're expecting it. Nobody expected like great AI in 2026, I feel like. You know,
yeah,
it's
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 wild.
yeah. No one is expecting like Mythos to break kernel and like every major
Yeah,
browser, every major like software, every major like infra.
it's happening like yeah, so fast right now. It's absolutely wild, and like most people like you go walk on the street and you just like see people staring at their phones, and I just think to myself like most of these people have like no idea what's going on right now, like from the technology perspective. Like if you look at stats that like I think only like less than like 2% or 1% of the entire population has ever paid for like for AI. So like
Mhm.
basically like maybe they just like ask a free LLM like a couple questions every once in a while, but they have like no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And like in February, like nobody expected like Opus 4.6 to like really like break the technology space, and break coding and break engineering and all that sort of stuff. And then after that happened, we're just like, okay, like maybe things are going to be calm for a while. Like that was a big improvement. And then it's only April, and
Yeah,
all it's only 2 months, less than 2 months later, and all of a sudden, like now Mythos, like, and it's like going
yeah.
to break everything from a security standpoint. So yeah, it's wild the pace of improvement, and it's only going to get faster.
Dude, l- December and January, I feel like so long ago already. But in theory, it's just like a few months ago. But yeah, we're just discovering like Claude code and Opus and like some of these new video models. Now we're just in a different world already.
Absolutely wild. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, we'll be doing super chat in December, and the world is gonna be completely different. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, maybe we'll be doing it from like a brain interface or something. I have no idea.
Yeah. Maybe, maybe.
Anyways, yeah, stay tuned. We got a lot of exciting stuff happening with Superseed. From like we just rebranded a little bit. We're kind of throwing out some like hints as we get closer to our launch here. Superseed is now the strategies protocol. Just to give you a little preview of what's coming. So yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned into the super chats each week. We're gonna try to keep you posted on everything that's happening. We do it once a week because there's so much happening. We might even have to increase the rate at which we do these live chats because so much happens in a week. We might have to start doing them like more often. So we'll see what happens. But thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
See you next
Peace.
time.